I think, after Trump was elected, it was just like a call to action for so many like young people, especially. Even though like a lot of the issues sort of like surrounding Trump and like that bigotry isn't new, it was the first time I think a lot of people were sort of like faced with it and felt this need to do something. Even if it couldn't be direct, but it was like making their voice heard in some way. Maybe sort of like a powerlessness that comes from being like a young person. They could like channel that through, make their voice heard through the streets, and just, feeling outraged at Trump being elected and being in the White House, and all of that. I think like the biggest thing for me is just sort of like youth empowerment. I think like really oftentimes when, high school kids or younger than that like have a problem, it's always the initial reaction to look to some level of authority, whether that's like in the school, like a teacher or principal, and if that doesn't get solved, it's kind of just like ends there. For me, I think the most sort of powerful part of organizing with students was just like bringing people together from like a dozen or so different high schools, completely self-directed without any sort of like adults, supervising or like deciding, making the final decisions. And just like looking at the things that like we wanted to change, which was like simple enough, but it was just something that rarely ever happens. There's a lot of like advocacy groups that are adult-led for youth, but like this was just completely all youth, and like just like seeing what you could kind of do with that, I think was pretty special. The effects of activism are always kind of like hard to see, at least like initially, and they're very like widespread. But I definitely think there's been like a lot of pressure put on public officials locally. And there definitely has been like more attention just like turned locally as well, because I think like the national event was what sparked a lot of this engagement. But like what we've seen with like Ted Wheeler and different city council members, and like our school board was big for us. I think a lot of people felt more empowered after this year. I think a lot of students felt like they could take more initiative and just like had a bigger interest in sort of like what was going on around them and looking at how they could use their voice and stay engaged with these sort of issues.